Hi, I'm Brandon Victor Dixon, and you are watching Life Minute TV.
But maybe.
Grammy Award-winning actor, singer, and producer Brandon Victor Dixon is showcasing a new side of his artistry. His latest single, Maybe, offers a poignant glimpse into his songwriting, with more to come on his forthcoming album. Fresh off his Tony-nominated role in Alicia Keys' Broadway musical Hell's Kitchen, Dixon also recently released a haunting rendition of Hotel California. He stopped by the Life Minute studios to tell us all about it and more. This is a Life Minute with Brandon Victor Dixon.
So the first single that I released that will be on my forthcoming album is a song called Maybe. It's an original song. And for me, Maybe is a song really about the state of the world. And I think we're at a very crucial time in our world as a society. And maybe really ask the question, are we going to make the decision to step forward in a different direction than we have been moving lately? You know, we're really cycling through a lot of the same conflicts that we've been through as a society. But we have, I believe, the innate desire and certainly the opportunity to make a different choice in how we want to live amongst one another and push our society forward. And maybe really is that question, you know. Maybe are we gonna make the decision or not? And so that's really what the basis of the song is. It's a song about social change, and the video works to communicate that as well. You know, I have a younger counterpart, a very talented young man named Jace, who just closed Gypsy, and it's really, the video shows that reflection of asking questions of ourselves and others about what kind of world do we really want to live in, and are we ready to take that next step forward? My sound, whilst it's diverse, it covers, I can sing a lot of different genres, but I think primarily, ultimately, what comes through is soul. I'm a very spiritual person, and I care very deeply about our human connection. I believe the goal of art and music is to bridge the gaps between each other and society. I think there's no more transformative tool than the power of art. And so I think that it's that soul connection that I look for, and it tends to come out in everything I do. You know, my goal is to expand the consciousness of myself and everyone around me, and so it's that soul connection that's there. Hotel California has always been one of my favorite songs. My father listened to a variety of eclectic music, and he used to drive me to school every morning when he was on his way to work. And we would regularly listen to Imus in the morning. I don't know if people know about Imus. And, you know, Imus played all kinds of different music and some country and some rock, and my father was a big fan. But I read a lot as a kid. I always had my head in a book. And my father was always telling me to take my head out of the book and talk to him. And, you know, I would always keep reading. But I remember a time when Imus was playing this song, and I think it just kind of caught my ear, and I started moving to it, and my father ended up turning it up. And, you know, I kind of ended up kind of rocking out to the song and then chatting after that. So I think the song, beyond just musically being one of my favorites, it's always kind of held a special place in my heart. I don't know, that moment has always stuck out. So when I was working with the Music Orchestra in Los Angeles, with whom I do concerts sometimes, they're a nonprofit out there, Kaveh Rastegar, he's a bassist and one of the arrangers for the organization. He had come up with a portion of this arrangement, and when I heard it, you know, I just thought I would really love to record it. I thought it was individual enough, but also really very much honored the original. And then connected with Michael Valerio, another musician out there, to do the strings. And we got the DC6 Singers Collective to come in. And it really just all came together. We had to reconstitute the parts and do some things. But we recorded it in Michael Valerio's living room. We converted it into a studio. And we're just really happy with how it came out, and feel that it really honors the song, but also kind of expands the song, I think, in a way that people can enjoy. My number one musical influence growing up was Michael Jackson, and by extension, you know, the Jackson 5 and the Motown family. I had the great pleasure of working with Berry Gordy on his musical on Broadway, and I think on top of Motown, also my family is Jamaican, so a lot of Bob Marley, the Wailers, and just reggae music in general. So those are probably my two main influences growing up. I did always know that I wanted to be a performer. I don't know that I always felt that I had the gift of singing. I could always carry a tune. My mother can sing. My father can sing. My uncle was a very famous pop star, Carl Douglas, and he is the writer and singer of the incredibly famous Everybody Was Kung Fu Fighting.
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
He's probably the top 3 one-hit wonders that anybody could ever name. So it's always been in my family. When I was growing up, I didn't really know anything about it. My mom would show me pictures of him in concert when he would call, because he lived in the UK. So he would call and my mom would be like, come talk to your Uncle Carl. And so I would talk to him and just catch up with him and tell me how he was. But it really wasn't until I was a teenager, and I grew up in Maryland, and those late night infomercials with the CD collections, music collections, find the greatest hits like so and so and so and so. And I was very familiar with the song, and it was popping up on one of those lists, and I just asked my father randomly. I was like, who even sings this song, Dad? Kung Fu Fighting. He said, very nonchalantly, he was like, I'm pretty sure your uncle does. I said, what are you talking about? And so he had to elaborate. And when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to study acting in Oxford, and so I did a program over there, the British American Dramatic Academy, and I spent some time living with my uncle while I was over there, and so I got to learn a bit more about his time as an artist. And in fact, at that time, he had done a remix of Kung Fu Fighting with a UK rap group, and so he had started to go back on tour again. So that's how I really got into learning about his history. But growing up, I was acting more than I was considered myself a vocalist. Even though I had a wonderful education, so in my school we had a music class every day. Mrs. Worth taught me how to read music and put me in the musicals on a regular basis. But I think I saw myself primarily as an actor. But as I got older and I became a professional, my singing styles developed as I did more shows and sang a wider variety of music. A lot of Ray Charles things kind of opened up things in my voice and opened up, I think, my ability to interpret music, and then I claimed the mantle of a singer at that point. With acting, and I think with music, when you combine music with acting, musicality is almost like an emotional cheat code. It allows people to open up to you and you to open up to them with greater ease. Julie Andrews was probably a huge conduit and a huge influence for that when I was young. So I think that's kind of where the combination of the acting and the music started to synthesize for me. But also, Michael Jackson's artistry, he was very much not just singing songs, he was telling stories, he was creating pictures with his body, he was innovating on the screen as well in the level of storytelling through his music. So I think that was also a heavy influence for me in terms of appreciating a wide variety of art and then looking to acquire those skills to help me become a strong artist. My first big break was The Lion King. I booked the role of Simba in The Lion King when I was in college. Prior to that, I had done a handful of things. There was a special performance at the Lincoln Memorial for New Year's Eve of 1999, and I got to be a part of that. And I did one or two things here in the city, really in preparation to go on the road and play Simba. So that was my big break.
Me and my mother live on the 42nd floor of a 44-story building on 43rd Street, right in the heart of the neighborhood some people know as Hell's Kitchen.
I was very fortunate to have worked with Michael Greif, the director of Hell's Kitchen, over the years. I've done a couple of Rent productions with him. I also did a production of Far From Heaven with him at the Williamstown Theater Festival with Kelly O'Hara. And when Michael was working on this project, he reached out to me and he asked me to come in and do some of the preparatory readings as they were developing the script. And I was very grateful to join the project. I've always been a huge Alicia Keys fan, so I got to be a part of the reading, and luckily, everything continued to develop, and they appreciated my work, and I got to join them on Broadway. And we just had a really fantastic time doing the show. I think Alicia's music's very special, and I think that there's a lot of narrative storytelling elements to her music already that translated very well to the stage. So it was a great blessing. Alicia's a very positive person. She's a big believer in manifestation and that you get out what you put in, which is, I think, largely the message of the show, is that it takes a village to raise somebody, and what we pour into each other, what we pour into our children, they will give back to us, 1,000-fold as they grow. So, be careful what you pour into others. Be mindful of what you pour into others.
Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, baby, if I ain't got you, baby. Some people.
A great deal goes into being a Broadway performer, but the majority of it is preparation. It's really, preparing your body and your voice and your skills, your acting skills. Because ultimately, no matter what you're doing as an artist, you are acting, you are storytelling, whether that's through dance in your body or your voice. You're telling a story. You're trying to provide a conduit for connection. And so I think it's about preparation and health and information. Because we are channeling life experiences, the more you live or the more people you come in contact with, the more information you have to bring stories to life and to create those platforms for connection. My primary pre-show ritual is a meditation. I generally meditate just to center myself or to connect myself with the character, with the journey we're about to go on. It varies if the show is, a comedy or a drama, or whether it's a piece of fiction or whether it's, kind of like a bio musical or something like that. It creates a difference. But meditation, and I generally do a workout prior to performance as well. Particularly in preparation for a role, I will try to eat very responsibly and work out, put myself on a particular workout regimen depending on what the show is going to be. I had to do different things for Burr and Hamilton than I had to do, say, for Jesus Christ Superstar. The costumes make a difference depending on what we're going to be wearing, how exposed we're going to be. But I think it's really about determining the role in the show and then building a level of preparation based on that, and then maintaining something, creating something that you can maintain as you go throughout the production. I've gotten to do a lot of really great roles with a lot of wonderful collaborators. Burr and Hamilton is certainly one of my favorites. I loved playing Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar. I got to be a part of Kander and Ebb's last musical, The Scottsboro Boys, and I got to play a lesser-known historical figure named Haywood Patterson in that. That was a wonderful blessing. As I mentioned before, working with Berry Gordy and then playing Berry Gordy in Motown The Musical was also a wonderful experience. These roles provide different things, I think, for me, and I'm grateful that I get to carry them into each successive part, whether it is a musical or whether it is a television show or a film. My approach to acting is the same. I don't make an adjustment based on the medium. It's really, I make my adjustments based on the character and the show. How does the character operate within the context of the whole? What is the goal of the show? So the application of the skills are the same, but it's the part or the show itself that determines how it's going to manifest. Primarily, initially, it begins with the technical elements. It's memorizing your lines and mastering your dialect, and I like to do a lot of research. So, if I'm doing a biographical role, that really makes things very easy for me. I got to work on an Amazon show earlier this summer that will be coming out next year, and it's based on a real life figure. And so I was playing somebody who really existed, and it was easier for me to then read up on the individual or watch them give speeches and kind of get the cadence down. So the technical elements are what I try to master first and ingest as much information as I can about the character, and then move forward into the space and kind of let those things manifest naturally. It's you learn the technical elements so that the walls can fall away. I can still get nervous sometimes when I'm going to do a one-off song or a concert performance, something like that. I think the stakes are a little different. It's less you moving with your collective into the space of pretending to be somebody else, and you are stepping out on your own and presenting your own thing. So I can still get nervous, but it depends on what the project is. My favorite people to perform with. I've had the opportunity to do some concerts and some galas with some very special people. I think most of my favorites to perform with have been Audra McDonald, Brian Stokes Mitchell. I didn't get to perform with him, but I got to work with Jason Alexander, and so I really appreciated that as well. I've been blessed to move around with a couple of very talented and intelligent artists. I'm a big fan of Teddy Swims. I'd love to do something out there with Teddy Swims, and well, I have to see. I love the Roots, so maybe the Roots can bring me up to the picnic. Come on, guys, bring me up to the picnic, guys. I do still need to do my Jean Valjean. Les Miserables is one of my favorite musicals of all time, so I definitely want to come through and do a Jean Valjean. I would also love to do a live television version of The Music Man on July 4th. I think that would be a lot of fun and a great television event for us right now. I was on the producing team of Hedwig and the Angry Inch and also of Mice and Men, for which we won a Tony Award. I produced the independent film 88, which is a political thriller and really a commentary on our social political system.
White supremacists supporting a black man. You know how ridiculous that sounds?
It goes way beyond campaign funds.
It goes to the soul of the country.
And I'm very interested in those things, so getting that done was a highlight of my producing career for me, which is available everywhere if you want to check it out. It's hard to be a producer, but I think what it has done is it's given me a great deal of insight into the broader entertainment ecosystem, the broader entertainment sphere, and helped me to look at our business from both sides of the table, which sometimes can be in conflict with one another. But particularly as we look at the entertainment industry at large and how the economics and the country is making its shift, I think my work as a producer has just enabled me to navigate these things with greater ease than I would have done otherwise. What inspires me creatively is probably fellow creators. I think fellow creators pushing things forward. I have a number of friends with whom I've come up over the years, and as they step out into expanding their platforms and the things they're doing, I have people like Todrick Hall, a friend of mine who's been developing his own musicals and kind of his own production thing. I'm very proud of him. I have people like Renee Elise Goldsberry, who, she's had a lot of fame through Hamilton and, her TV shows, but now she has a documentary coming out kind of about her own personal journey throughout those things. I really love to see my friends grow and expand and push out into new areas of exploration and of storytelling. So I'm very proud of them. Britton and the Sting is a friend of mine whom I did Shuffle Along with, and now he's got his music out and it's really growing very strongly. So I'm very supportive of my friends and I find them inspiring. Between the work I'm doing on stage and the work I'm pursuing on screen and now the music that we're putting out, I'm really focusing on the release of the music, maybe earlier this year in Hotel California. I think right now, my plate is pretty full and I'm grateful for it. When I'm not working, I like to catch up with friends. I like to read a lot. So I read fantasy novels and I also read historical fiction. So I'm very, very boring when I'm not on stage. I like to travel as well. So anytime I get a chance, I'll take a trip. Maybe I'll go down to Jamaica or I'll go visit family in Florida. And I'm blessed to have friends kind of throughout the world. So I've gotten to go to Japan and visit friends or perform in Japan. I've gotten to go to other parts of Southeast Asia. I was in Thailand earlier this year. So travel with friends is a good way to relax. I think for aspiring music theater people or artists in general, I think the goal is to study and to keep going. Study, train, practice, and keep going. Being an artist is a life full of no's. A lot of small no's and a couple of big yeses. So you have to just keep going until you find your big yeses, and don't let the power of the no's outweigh the power of the yeses for your spirit. My best piece of life advice in general is direction is more important than speed. Now, that's not mine. That's Berry Gordy's, but I use it liberally. I'll have an album coming out, in 2026, and so really just wrapping up the final couple of tracks for that and continuing to promote the music that's already out there. There's I'm developing a show or two that will, potentially come to Broadway, and as I said, I'm on an Amazon show that will be premiering in 2026 as well. So there are some forthcoming things. Hopefully I can come back and talk to you all about them.
To hear more of this interview, visit our podcast, Life Minute TV, on iTunes and all streaming podcast platforms.